Hey guys! Okay, let's remove the jersey just to make it look like it's a different point in time when I'm recording this video. Hi guys! So in this video I'm going to be focusing on my experience working in private, some things that I found to be completely outrageous, some things that I've just found to be quite hilarious and very bougie and very fancy. The biggest thing that I can tell you about working in private is it's not that much different to working in government. The only thing that you have to adjust to is obviously the cultural shock. There's a lot of things that they do in private that in government sometimes you're not allowed to do. It's mostly like a doctor thing to do. So yeah, that has just been a bit of an adjustment to that, but other than that I feel like it's exactly the same in government. So yeah, without wasting much time, let us get into the video. Name badges is everywhere in all hospitals. In all institutions where you're working with patients, you have to have a name tag to show who you are and your rank. So it is the same thing. The only difference that I've noticed in private is that they only have your name and your rank. That's it. Whereas in government, you have either your student card or your name badge, and your name badge will have your PaySal number, it's got your SANG number, and so forth. So in private, they're a bit more private about their staff's like personal details, like your PaySal number and things like that, which I really appreciated. Like, I don't want my SANG number to just be out there for everyone to see, because you never know what people are going to do with that number. So I really appreciate that it's just your name and your rank. That's it. This is a bit of a stereotype from my point of view, but I somewhat feel that patients in private, they want to know a lot about their treatment compared to government patients. And I think also in private, because the patients are paying for every single thing that we do to them, obviously they want to know if it's really necessary or not. So with your medication, they want to know, what medication is this, why am I taking it, if you put in a drip, why do I need it? If they see any small air bubble, it's a big thing. So they're a bit more particular, but I mean in government you do find particular patients, but I've noticed that in private it's a bit more, with addedness, if that makes sense. The other thing in private, we don't have medication trolleys. Like in government, you've got that big trolley that has the patients, like they'll say A side patients, B side patients, and all their medication is there. In private, next to each patient's bed on the wall is their cupboard. So specifically for the patient in bed 1A, they'll have a cupboard for 1A, where you as the RN working on that side of the ward will have the key for that ward. You open it, you take out the patient's medication, you give it to them, and you lock it. Which for me, I find it's great. You never have to run around looking in the ward of where's this patient's medication. Did they get mixed up with another patient? No, it's all there into their little cupboard, which is, it's fantastic. And also because we have to bill them for every single medication, and if you don't use that medication, we do what is known as a reconciliation, where we say, okay, the pharmacy gave us 10 Panados, the patient only used 5, so please don't bill them for 10 Panados, bill them for 5 Panados, to obviously save our patient money. So I think that's great. It just makes life easy. So anything that's a patient, it's in their little cubby. And then the other surprising thing, at a certain private hospital that I worked with, there's no 13th floor, there's no room 13, like the room number 13 is not involved anywhere in the hospital. And this is obviously to respect patients that have got like superstitious values of thinking that the number 13 is unlucky. So as a way to respect them, the number 13 is not involved anywhere in the hospital, which I found was really cute, to be catering to patients like that. Then the other thing is we've got different ID bands for different things. So you've got your basic white ID band, which has got your name, your surname, your date of birth, and your folder number. And like in private, they have one that has got a barcode on it, so you can scan the barcode with your tablet and you get that patient's like information and their medical record, which is where you can make notes and so forth, which is great. Then we get a pink band which we use to write if your patient is going for a procedure. So if they're going for a knee replacement, we write knee replacement. So when you go with a patient to theater, then it shows, okay, they're getting a knee replacement. Or if you see a patient walking around with the pink bracelet, then you know, okay, this patient is going for a procedure. Then you go and ask them, oh, how is the procedure? Because obviously you sometimes see patients in the cafeteria eating when they're supposed to be nil per mouth. So if you see that, just inquire, oh, have you had your operation? Oh, when is your operation? Oh, you're supposed to be nil per mouth, but you're having coffee, that sort of thing. So it's just to ring that bell. Then we've got the yellow ID band, which is for allergies and risk factors. So allergies to medication, to food, and so forth, and also risk factors like if they've got diabetes, high blood pressure, hypercholesteremia, high cholesterol, and all other risk factors like their fall risk and so forth. And then a red band is if they have fall risk, like they've fallen before or they are very wobbly when they're walking and so forth. So if you see a patient mobilizing and they've got a red ID band, that's a light bulb moment to say, okay, where you going? Can I assist you to where you're going? And so forth. As I mentioned in my video before, or the video that's coming, whatever, I'm going to mention it in a video somewhere. In private, you clock in. You come in at 6:30, you put in your fingerprint, you say, I'm going to ward so-and-so from this agency. You clock in. It tells them exactly the time you walked into the hospital and the time that you walked out. I feel that it's so much more accurate, especially if you're an agency staff. They are calculating your pay based on the number of hours. So if you come in a little early and you leave late because of some stuff, you get compensated for you coming in early and coming late, which I find is really great and accommodating to the nurse. Then the other thing is pharmacy. Pharmacy is an interesting experience. So I worked in, I guess, multiple private hospitals, and all have different systems to go about ordering medication. So the main system is we've got the tablet, which shows if the patient's doctor prescribes a certain medication, then it automatically pings to pharmacy that this patient has this new medication prescribed, and they'll automatically start preparing it for you, and it gets delivered to the ward by the porter. You never go to pharmacy ever, or unless if you really need medication urgently and stuff, but you never really go to pharmacy to fetch medication. So that's the main thing. Then in another hospital, if you need to order medication, especially hospitals that are still adjusting from paper to paperless, we still have the pharmacy chute, where you take your prescription chart, you write what needs to be ordered, you put it into this long black cylinder. Usually the cylinder we use when we're sending off blood samples, and then we send it off to pharmacy, then they deliver the medication back to us. Then the other process is obviously the patient is in the ward, but the medication is finishing. Then we have a pharmacy book where we write down in that book, okay, the patient needs more paracetamol, or they need more Zephyr, or they need more so and so, and then the book gets fetched by the porters. They take it to pharmacy issues it, and the porter brings it back. In another ward, if the patient is running out of medication, you call them, hey, this medication is almost finished, can you bring it up for us? And they bring it up for us. So each different hospital has a different way of going on about it, but the iPad system where new medication gets prescribed and it automatically shows up on pharmacy, that's the main one that most private hospitals follow. Then the other interesting thing that I've had to adjust to is because of medical aid, it affects a number of different things for the patient. One, it affects the medication that they're going to get, because one medical aid will pay medication from a certain company, another medical aid will pay medication from a different company. So you might have patients getting the same type of medication, but it's got different names. You might have one patient getting Celebrex, another patient getting Coxleon, but it's all anti-inflammatories. And then the other thing is each patient has their own doctor, and that doctor is affiliated by their own physiotherapist, affiliated with their own occupational therapist, affiliated with their own dietitian. And they're affiliated, if they're a surgeon, they're affiliated with their own anesthetist. So just keeping track of all of that, of this doctor is affiliated with them, and them. It's a whole maze and a half that you have to follow, and you have to keep up with this doctor, they want this. It's a whole thing. So yeah, that's been a bit of an adjustment that I've had to get used to, of okay, this physiotherapist, okay, they're from this company, that means they're affiliated with this doctor, and that means this doctor wants their patient to have this type of physiotherapy, or the doctor wants them to have their leg in a certain way, or you prep the surgical area in a certain way that's different to another doctor. Guys, it's a whole thing that you have to keep up with, but you just have to do it. That's what the doctors want. We go for it. On the other side is, if a patient is private, meaning that they're paying for everything cash, it's a bit of a nightmare, a bit of an admin logistic thing that you just have to get used to. For example, if a patient is going to get admitted, they need to pay for the bed that they're going to be in advance. If they get moved to ICU, you first pay the ICU bill before you can be moved to ICU. And you literally have to pay for every single thing. Obviously, the bill goes up the more things that we're using for that patient and things like that. And then the other thing is ordering of bloods, x-rays, and stuff like that. In a government setup, the doctors are dealing with that. They're ordering the bloods, they come take the bloods, they're ordering the x-rays, they're ordering the surgeries, and so forth. But with us, with our online system, if bloods needs to be taken, you create a new order on the online system. Once that order has been sent in, then the lab, either Pathcare or Empath, they see, okay, this patient in this ward, in this bed, needs this blood taken. They come, they take the blood, and they go. And then we get the results on our iPad. If the patient needs to go for x-rays, either the doctor will put it in, or we can put it in and the patient goes to x-rays. If we need to order any gauze, we need to order any dressings, we need to order nappies, we put it on the online system, we create an order, then pharmacy brings it to us. So it's a whole different experience where you're sort of doing online shopping on your little iPad for your patient. And also we get to put drips, which is great. You never really have to wait for a doctor to do that. You never wait for the doctor to come take bloods. You just call the lab, quick, they come. If you need to send like stool samples, urine samples, you take the sample, or your ENA does it. Then you call the lab, hi, we've got a stool or we've got a urine sample that needs to be fetched. You put a sticker on it, they come fetch it, and off it goes. And yeah, so there's just a lot more ease to how things are done, which it makes life easy. And the last thing, oh my gosh, the menu. Oh my gosh, they have such a nice menu. Like, I find it to be such a bougie thing. Like, literally, obviously there's a standard menu that you get if you're admitted in the hospital. Then if you're staying for a day or two, then the kitchen staff will come during lunch and say, oh, good morning, sir, madam, this is our menu for the next day. What would you like to eat? Then they're given this whole fancy menu on what they can eat. You can have dombolo, you can have cottage pie, you can have anything that you want. I'm just like, wow. In government, you get what you get. You eat what you get. So that I just found really fun. Obviously, they've got TVs, they've got own fancy showers. You know, they're living life. But yeah, the menu thing I found to be like top notch. It's amazing. So the first one is medication names. As I mentioned in my video that I did a few weeks back about the study with me, where I was saying I've had to adjust a lot to how the medications are set up, because they've got different names compared to what I'm used to. And obviously, because you're in private, because you've got medical aids, the options are a lot bigger than they are in government, because obviously in government they have to do as much as they can to save money. So you get used to it, because obviously with me, I'm working in a surgical ward, which is orthopedic. So most of the patients, they get the same type of medication. So once you know what one medication is, then you get to figure out what the rest are, or you get to see them so frequent. Like, you can have 3 different patients that have got knee replacements by the same doctor, so they will have the same medication. So it's usually easier to learn like that. But yeah, the medication and adjusting it to it has been crazy. Then the second thing you get used to is you need to bill the patient for every single thing that you use on them. Whether it's a syringe, whether it's a Tergadem, whether it's gauze, whether it's those little flexi vials of normal saline. For every single thing that you use on the patient, you have to bill for them. So it does create a bit of an admin issue, because at the end of the shift, you literally have to bill them for every single thing that you have used, and you need to make sure that you do it before they are discharged. Because now trying to backtrack to say this patient who was here this day, please, because then your personal assistant or the secretary of the ward, then you have to tell them, this patient, please bill them for this, and so forth. So yeah, it just does create a bit of an admin thing, but I mean, it makes sense. You were in the hospital, we use these things on you, so you need to pay for them, but obviously it does create a bit of an admin thing. So having a little piece of paper on you and saying, okay, this patient, I use this and this and this. Usually for me, I like to do it like 3 times a day. So after I give my morning medication, then I go and bill. Then I give them the afternoon medication, which is usually very little. Most of them, they're on pain medication, or they say no, so there's no afternoon medication that I'm giving. Then I go and bill. Then in the evening, when I give my evening medication, I give them. Then I go and bill before the end of the shift. So if you create a system for yourself, it becomes easy to keep track of things. But obviously, there are days when it's really crazy. You're doing dressings, yeah, then you need to do this, then you need to do that, and so forth. Then it just becomes a whole lot of things that you need to bill for the patient. So just have a system for you to be able to bill those things, because the patient needs to pay for them. If not, it gets, I don't know, billed to the ward, or it's now an expense towards the ward that you didn't bill the patient for it. It's a whole thing that comes with it. Just bill for the patient. Then the main thing that I want to discuss now is the nursing ratio. So they say that for every RN, they need to be taking care of 10 patients. In most cases, you get to have 6 to about 8 patients. I think that's the most that I've had, 6 to 8 patients. However, if the ward only has 10 patients, they're not going to put 2 RNs. So let's say, for example, you walk into a ward, or you walk into a shift, and you've got 15 patients. And by 1 o'clock, the patients are now down to 10. Because of that nursing ratio, one of the RNs has to go home, because the one RN and their ENA and their healthcare worker, they can deal with the 10 patients. So obviously someone has to go home. If it's 2 permanent staff, one of them, they choose which one is going to stay, which one is going to go, and the other one goes home. If it's a permanent RN and an agency RN, the agency RN will automatically be the one that goes home. There's no negotiation that you guys do. The agency sister goes home. So obviously this works to your disadvantage as an agency sister, because if the patient numbers go down either at 1 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, you go home. And obviously, because you're working on an hourly basis, it affects the amount of pay that you're going to get, because you haven't worked all the hours. So yeah, that does get a little annoying, because you'd be like expecting like, yeah, if I work 12 hours, that's a lot of money, then you only end up working till 4. The only thing that protects you is the agency and the hospital have reached sort of like a consensus that they can't send anyone home before 1. So if you get into the ward and there's 12 patients, and by the time it's 11 o'clock, the patients are down to 10, you will stay in that ward until 1 o'clock, and then you go home. So that's a great thing. At least you get what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. You get to have at least 6 hours paid for, which is great. And obviously if you wake up until 4, then it's a little bit more. And then obviously if you had waked up until 7, it would have been great. So obviously as an agency staff, that has somewhat dragged me up the wrong way, because I'm like, darn it, I could have worked 7-7, but now I'm working 7-1, 7-4. And sometimes if the patient numbers are low, even if it was your shift to go in the next day, they'll usually send a message the day before, like in the morning at 4:30, to say this sister has been cancelled. So that has happened before, where let's say, for example, I'm working Monday, Tuesday, I go in Monday, and the numbers have gone down. They'll send me a message in the morning, you're not coming in the following day. Then that's a day that you're not getting paid for. And it's obviously too late for you to book another shift for that day. So it does get a bit iffy in those cases, where it's now a wasted day because you're not getting paid for it. Obviously, if you were permanent, you would get paid for it. and they do a thing called working back hours. For example, they say in the month you're supposed to work 15 days, but because of cancellations and stuff, you have worked only 10 days, then you have to work back those 5 days and you get paid for them. So if you're permanent staff, it sort of works to your advantage. And also, if you're permanent staff, you get what is known as flexed, where you get to be put in another ward. If you're an agency staff, you're going home automatically. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to discuss is, obviously, as myself, someone who's very passionate about teaching nursing stuff. To be honest, guys, I was excited to be, that RN where I'm taking my patients on an orientation of the ward and telling them what this does and showing them how to do skills in the ward. Guys, I was excited for it. However, in private, they have their own, the same way that we had facilitators or supervisors from our university come into the hospital, the teacher staff, and they go. In private, the teaching staff have their own little office in the hospital. So if a student needs to have a procedure done, they need to be orientated to something, it's not our responsibility as the nursing staff to do it. Their educators come into the ward, they do everything with them, and they go. So that sort of broke my heart a bit, because I'm like, oh, I can't teach any patients. The educators need to come in. So obviously you can show the students there like how to do stuff, but it's not as, I don't know, student-centered as it was in a government setup. Like in a government setup, you did all your learning in a hospital setup, and I personally don't feel that it happens like that in private. Like, I feel like when they come for their shifts, they're there to work and they go. There's not a lot of learning that happens, because obviously the educators do all of that stuff, and when they come to work, they're just there to work. So for me, that's been a bit of a bummer, because I was really excited to teach students, but yeah, I guess I have to stick to YouTube and teach you guys through online stuff. But I'm excited to teach students, but yeah, it just doesn't happen like that in private. And yeah, that's been a shame and a half, but yeah. So lastly, the question that I get asked a lot: which do you prefer, working government or working private? Private, obviously, there's more money. Yes, there is more money in private, and I feel like because of the whole paperless thing, it's a bit more organized, it's a bit more structured, there's a lot more order. And for me, a type A person, I love that. It's amazing. It makes my life so much easier compared to government. There's a whole lot of admin issues that you get to deal with, and I'm not a fan of that. However, I do love the government side of it. Like, I feel like I'm genuinely needed. Like, the patients are a lot more appreciative of your presence. Like, if you do like any small stuff, like the patients are like, oh my gosh, you're the most amazing nurse. I don't know, I just feel like I'm more needed in government. The patients need me more compared to private, where I don't know, I just feel like I'm there to do my job and I go home. Whereas in government, it's more of I don't know, it's like a social outreach type of thing. That's just how I personally feel. So I enjoy both for very different things, and yeah, I'm happy to be able to have experience in both at the same time. So yeah. So yeah, that's all from me, my different experiences working in private and government, and yeah, the experience that I've had working in private. I know a lot of you have had questions about what it's like working in private, so I hope this has answered your questions. And yeah, it was just great to share with you guys and to be back. Okay, I know I keep saying that, but guys, I'm trying to get back into shooting, but being an agency sister is not easy. I'm working literally 7 days 7 days a week, just trying to get that money together and stuff. So I just got back from work and I was busy editing my video in the bus, and then I realized that my outro was cut, and I think it was also because of load shedding and my phone died when I was recording, but I thought I'd been finished. But anyway, so yeah, being an agency sister, you literally have to take as many shifts as you can so that the money accumulates at and the English at the end of the week or at the end of the month, because some weeks it's really quiet, some weeks it's really busy, so you sort of have to compensate. And because I'm working both private and public, On my off days in private, I'm working at public. So yeah, I kind of put a lot on myself. So essentially, I end up working 7 days in a row. So that's been a lot. I am trying to find ways to take down the amount of work that I'm putting on myself. And stuff like that. So yeah, just that whole adjustment of working both to try to make the money come together while I'm also getting myself into a proper shift and stuff like that. Um while I'm trying to get myself into a proper shift and things like that. So things are settling now a bit. So recording is coming back. I promise, guys. I'm so like there's so many videos in the archive. There's so many videos that are scripted already that just need me to sit down and record. So don't worry, I'm coming back. So if you have any questions about what it's like working in private or government as a new sister, definitely comment down below. It'll be great to just have that feedback from you guys of what are your expectations, what have you heard about private, and then I can just either approve or decline what people have been saying. So until next week Friday, 12 p.m. South African time, have an awesome one. Bye guys.